Hey guys, Big Weir, roadtoroota.com. With my American flag hat on, I want to talk about something that's extremely important and extremely interesting given the timing of everything else, the battles behind the scenes, and what's going on. We are within 2 weeks of the release of the remaining JFK documents. These documents are CIA, FBI, NSA documents that have been hidden, unbelievably, still to this day, hidden from the world, and every president has denied releasing it. Donald Trump has to make this decision before, I think it's the 26th now, or the National Archives will have released all of the documents in one big data dump, and let the chaos resume after that. There's already enough conspiracy theories about the assassination, conspiracy facts about the assassination. It wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. That much is clear, but who it was is still up in the air. And the exact amount of evidence and information the FBI and CIA had and their involvement in the assassination of Kennedy will be exposed. That's why it's not being released. It also opens up a huge can of worms about all these false flags going on today. If they can hide the assassination of a president and keep it from the American people for how long has it been, 50 years or so, then what else can they do and what else have they done? It will absolutely and should open up a can of worms about what our government is hiding from us. And so it's a big deal. It's a monster deal. There are those in the CIA who are demanding that Trump lock him up for another 25 years. And most of the CIA, most of the people working for the government around that time are dead by now. Some of the few remaining are Bush Sr., obviously, is one of them, whose name was kind of potentially all over. He was in the CIA at the time. He was in Dallas, supposedly, at the time. And we all know about the Bush family funding of the Nazis and all that. Hopefully you've done your homework on that. But the JFK document dump is something that's huge and something that will change the way the United States citizens see their government. Government's supposed to be working for you, not against you. They're not supposed to hide things as important as the assassination of a president. So, do I think Trump will let all this information out? I hope so. I hope so. He promised to drain the swamp, and what a better way to drain it than to release all this information of secrets that people have known on the inside for a long, long, long time. Anyway, here's a story on it in Politico. The JFK document dump could be a fiasco. Yes, of course it could be, because all your politician friends will end up in jail because they're doing the same thing that the CIA did long ago. They're hiding things. They're perpetrating false flags and all of the above. Later this month, the National Archives is set to release thousands of documents about John F. Kennedy's assassination. It's likely to fuel conspiracy theorists for years. There they go, throwing out the conspiracy theory as if that means it's not true. I remember talking about the conspiracy theory of Enron long before it was exposed, and everybody in banking knew what was going on. But as soon as you said conspiracy theory, everybody would just laugh at you. Well, the same thing happens today. You throw that, oh, that's just a conspiracy theory. It shuts people's brains down. It's kind of sad, actually. All right, the federal government's long campaign to try to choke off rampant conspiracy theories about the November 1963 assassination of President John F. Kennedy is threatening to end this month in massive confusion, if not chaos. Now, all this tells me right now, with this first line, is that one, the reason the government is hiding all this information is to choke off rampant conspiracy theories, according to this author and this publication. And two, if they do release it, we're looking at massive confusion. Why? Because the story we were told, the official story, is not true, kind of like the same thing coming out of Vegas. And the chaos. Yes, there will be chaos. So is that a reason to lock these documents up for another 25 years? No. Within the next 2 weeks, the National Archives is legally obligated to release the last of thousands of secret documents from government files about the assassination, most of them from the CIA, FBI, and the Justice Department. And there's every indication that the massive document dump, especially if if any of it is blocked by President Trump, the only person empowered under law to stop the release of the files, will simply help fuel a new generation of conspiracy theories. What do you mean? I mean, if any of it's blocked, so now it's Trump. If Trump blocks something, he's trying to fuel a conspiracy theory instead of letting it loose. Trump better let all this stuff out. Or yes, confusion is necessary, and confusion has been around for 50 years. Let's stop the confusion and let the truth be known. And whoever's writing this wasn't around at the time and shouldn't have any. Obviously, they're getting their words from the CIA. You can't let this happen because everybody will be talking about conspiracies. Ridiculous. Trump, no stranger to conspiracy theories, including totally unsubstantiated theories about a link between Ted Cruz's father and JFK's death, has not yet revealed his plans for the documents. Yes, Trump knows that Ted Cruz's father was involved, and it's in these documents. That's why he brought it up out of the blue in the first place. So Trump is hitting that point where he's alienated the left and the right, and a lot of the crazier things that he said, everybody thought was crazy at the time, are going to be proven to be true, giving him more credibility. That's what's happening. His friend and political advisor, Roger Stone, the Republican consultant who is the author of a book claiming that President Lyndon Johnson was the mastermind of the Kennedy assassination, said last week that he has been informed authoritatively that the CIA is urging Trump to delay the release of some of the JFK documents for another 25 years. Do you really want to go another 25 years without knowing what is going on? I don't. They must reflect badly on the CIA, even though virtually everyone involved is long dead, Stone said in a statement on his website. The CIA has not confirmed or denied reports that it has appealed to Trump to block the release of some of the files, on grounds that the documents might still somehow endanger national security if made public. In a cryptic statement last week, the spy agency said that it, quote, continues to engage in the process to determine the appropriate steps within the with respect to any previously unreleased CIA information. I mean, it's been what, 50 years? Unbelievable that they're still hiding this stuff. As it stands now, the document released this month will be a logistical nightmare, with the public suddenly flooded with a huge online library of documents. Why is that a logistical nightmare? Open the files for everybody to see. There's no logistical nightmare. Clearly, Politico doesn't want this. The author and Politico and the people telling him what to write do not want these documents out there. Let's see, where are we? Tens of thousands in total will be, at first, mostly incomprehensible even to experienced students of the assassination. How do you know? How does anybody know that they're incomprehensible unless they've seen it? The National Archives, abandoning its plans to release documents in batches over the course of several months, said this week that it will instead release everything at once on the same day, sometime between now and the deadline of October 26th. We both published books in 2013 about the assassination and had a taste of the chaos to come back in July when the archives tried an online release of a relatively small portion of the secret documents, including about 400 never-before-seen files. The archive's computer servers were instantly overwhelmed, making it impossible to download any of the material for days. When the files could be downloaded, many of those documents proved to be illegible, or were so full of CIA and FBI code names and other jargon that it would take months or years to make sense of any of them. At worst, especially if the White House blocks the release of some of the files, this month's document release will simply cement the idea among the nation's army of conspiracy theorists that 54 years after those gunshots rang out over Delaney Plaza, the truth about the assassination is still being hidden. Of course it is. We all know it. I'd like to see the polling data on who believes that that there was a lone shooter on the Kennedy assassination. I don't think many people would believe that now. The still secret JFK Library at the archives is made up about 3,100 documents that the public has never seen before, as well as more than 30,000 other files that have been only partially released in the past. Many are known to involve a mysterious chapter in the history of the assassination. a 6-day trip that JFK assassin Harvey Lee Oswald paid to Mexico City several weeks before the president's murder, in which Oswald met with Cuban and Soviet spies and came under intensive surveillance by the CIA's Mexico City station. Previously released FBI documents suggest that Oswald spoke openly in Mexico about his intention to kill Kennedy. That's bullcrap, if you ask me, but he was a patsy. Under the 1992 law, millions of pages of other documents about the assassination were made public in the 1990s, and they did reshape the thinking of many historians about JFK's murder. Many of those documents revealed how much information had been withheld by the CIA and FBI over the years that demonstrated how those agencies had bungled intelligence in 1963 that, if acted on, might have prevented the assassination. This week, the National Archives cited processing delays to explain why it had abandoned its original plan this year to release the documents in an orderly fashion in batches over the course of the summer and early fall. Instead, it said everything will be released at once at some point this month, possibly on the deadline date, October 26th. An archive spokesman, Miriam Kelaim, said that Archives is working with our IT team and are looking at ways to streamline the downloading process to avoid the problems experienced in July. With everything else made public at once, Pandemonium is all but guaranteed, since major news organizations from around the world will want to know. Well, I would say the major news organizations want to know how to spin it. Almost instantly, what is in the documents that is new and potentially important. And there will be. I mean, these are the final ones that have been, supposedly there's nothing else in the files. So there's a reason they were kept secret all these years, 53 years. There'll simply be no way for historians and other researchers, even those with special knowledge of the Kennedy assassination, to make authoritative judgment as they try to page through tens of thousands of papers, files all at once. These guys you can tell how scared they are about this stuff coming out. But sadly, but understandably, the result will be that many journalists and others will either reach overly hasty, cherry-picked conclusions from the individual documents or throw up their hands, assuming that the confusion over the documents is simply more proof of why it is impossible to know the full truth of the JFK death. Precisely the sort of cynical response the authors of the 1992 law had hoped to avoid. The 1992 law was itself a repose in Congress to the furor created by the release the year before of Oliver Stone's book JFK, which suggests that a vast government conspiracy was behind Kennedy's death. Senior members of Congress, including both Republican chairman and ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, have joined in recent days to urge Trump to release all of the remaining JFK assassination files. Who is the ranking Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee? I don't know who it is. Might be Feinstein. Americans deserve a full picture of what happened that fateful day in 1963. Absolutely, said Senator Chuck Grassley. The assassination of President Kennedy occurred at a pivotal time in our nation, and nearly 54 years later, we are still learning the details of how our government responded and what it may have known beforehand. Very interesting stuff. And finally, my hope is that the FBI, CIA, and Justice Department see that the American people have a right to this information, Jones said. He said he hoped that Trump would seize an opportunity to prove himself a champion of government transparency by releasing all of the documents. My thinking is that Mr. Trump can endear himself with a large number of American people by doing this. He wouldn't do it for the political side. He would do it to show that our government is massively corrupt to the core and has been for a very long time. I do think he's going to release all the documents. I do think it will be chaos. And it will call into question all these events that were the false flags. Let's just call them what they are, the false flags that had happened between the early days. I mean, obviously it goes way back before this, but the day when JFK was shot to today, how many false flags have we had? You can count them on 10 fingers and 10 toes. And our government lies and lies and lies, all in the auspice of national secrets and keeping us safe and all that bullcrap. It's time to drain the swamp. This is the perfect opportunity. If Trump is true to his word, He will drain the swamp by opening the files. I think WikiLeaks needs to do the exact same thing. Stop combing through all the files they have. Expose them to the world. Let everybody else figure out how bad they are and then move on from there. Yes, it will be chaotic, but we have to go through this. It has to happen for us to move on to something new and better. Anyway, this is Big Weir. Oh, I do have an announcement that if you are interested in submitting questions to the Hump Day, we're doing a Hump Day Q&A with V and myself tomorrow live, 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. If you want to submit questions, send them to contact@roguemoney.net. That's the Rogue Money contact site. And then CJ, the producer, is going to take those questions and ask us random. He's going to pick the ones he likes. And V and I will have no idea what he's picking, and we're going to try to answer them on the spot. And you can listen live at 10 o'clock Pacific time tomorrow morning. Anyway, this is Big Weir, roadtoroot.com. I'll talk to you later.